The dust on Kepler 442c hadn't been disturbed in 50,000 years. Dr. Marcus Webb knew this because the dating equipment told him so, and because the layer of red-gray powder covering everything was thick enough to leave boot prints that looked like they'd been carved into stone. "This is a waste of time," Ambassador Threll said. The Varanthi diplomat's 6 legs clicked nervously against the ancient plaza floor. "We should leave this place alone. The warnings are clear." Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead and looked up at the massive structure before them. The gate rose 300 meters into the pale sky, black as midnight and perfectly smooth. Around its base, carved into stone pillars that had somehow survived eons of wind and time, were warnings. Lots of warnings. Captain Sarah Chen stood beside him, her scanner still humming. 23 different languages, she said quietly. All extinct civilizations. All saying the same thing. "Do not touch," Marcus read aloud, pointing to a nearby pillar. "Do not approach. Death waits within. Turn back," he grinned. "You know, they really didn't want anyone touching this thing." "Perhaps we should listen to them," said Curator Voss. The tall, crystalline being shifted colors from blue to deep purple, which Marcus had learned meant serious concern. "My people attempted to study this gate 4,000 years ago. 12 scientists died when they tried to open it." Marcus walked closer to the gate. His boots crunched on the ancient dust. The human exploration team had found this place 3 weeks ago, while surveying dead worlds in the Outer Reach sector. It had been the discovery of a lifetime. The Galactic Council had sent representatives immediately, along with stern warnings about human recklessness. "How did they die?" Marcus asked. "The records say they simply stopped living," Voss replied. "No wounds, no cause. They touched the seal and their life force vanished." "Cheerful," Marcus muttered. The gate itself was beautiful in a terrifying way. It stood alone in the middle of the ancient plaza. No building attached to it, no structure supporting it. Just a massive frame of black material that seemed to swallow light. In the center, where a door should be, there was only darkness. Not the darkness of an empty room, but the darkness of absolute nothing. Sarah moved to his side. "Marcus, maybe they're right. We've scanned this thing for 3 weeks. We're not getting anything new. Maybe it's time to admit we can't open it and move on. The Council's best scientists couldn't open it in 4 millennia, Marcus said. The Varanthi couldn't. The Crystalline Collective couldn't. 23 dead civilizations left warnings about it." He paused. "Don't you think that's interesting?" "I think it's terrifying," Sarah said flatly. Marcus stepped right up to the gate. The darkness in its center seemed to pulse, though his instruments insisted nothing was moving. Around the frame, symbols glowed faintly, writing in a language nobody had ever translated. The architects, the Council called them, the precursor race that had supposedly built impossible things and then vanished 100,000 years ago. "The human thinks he's special," Ambassador Threll muttered to Curator Voss. "They always do. Young species, young and stupid," Marcus heard him. He was supposed to. The Varanthi had made it clear they thought humans had no business poking around ancient and dangerous artifacts. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Council 70 years ago. They were the newest members, the least advanced, the most reckless. They were also the most curious, you know what I think? Marcus said, turning to face the assembled aliens. "I think you're all too scared to actually try anything. You scan it, you date it, you put up warning signs, and then you leave. For thousands of years. Because we're wise," Voss said coldly. "Wisdom is knowing when to leave things alone." "Or," Marcus said, turning back to the gate, "maybe wisdom is knowing when to stop being afraid." He reached out and pressed his palm against the black surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Marcus felt foolish. Sarah was probably already preparing the lecture about proper scientific protocol and not touching ancient alien artifacts just to prove a point. Then the gate woke. Up the darkness in the center rippled like water. The symbols around the frame blazed with golden light, bright enough to make everyone shield their eyes. A sound filled the air, deep and resonant, like the universe itself was humming. "Marcus, get back," Sarah shouted, but he couldn't move. His hand was stuck to the gate, or maybe the gate was stuck to his hand. Energy poured through him, warm and electric and ancient. Information flooded his mind, too fast to understand, too vast to comprehend. He saw stars being born and dying. He saw civilizations rising and falling. He saw war and peace and the infinite darkness between galaxies. The 50,000-year-old seal broke with a sound like glass shattering, The darkness in the center of the gate cleared. Beyond it, Marcus could see a chamber, vast and empty. And in that chamber, something moved. Two eyes opened. They were the size of cars burning with white-blue fire. They focused on Marcus with an intelligence that made him feel like an insect being examined by a scientist. A voice spoke. It came from everywhere and nowhere, ancient beyond measure, and somehow Marcus understood every word. Heir apparent detected. Genetic sequence match confirmed. Welcome, child of Earth. The architects have been waiting for you. Behind Marcus, Ambassador Threll made a sound like a kettle whistling. Curator Voss's crystal body went completely transparent. A fear response Marcus had never seen before. Captain Sarah Chen just stared, her scanner falling from her hand to clatter on the ancient stone. Marcus tried to pull his hand away from the gate. He couldn't. The voice spoke again, and this time it sounded almost pleased. You touched the seal as a joke. How perfectly human. Yes. You will do nicely. The eyes grew brighter, and something massive began to rise from the darkness beyond the gate. Marcus had the distinct feeling that his joke had just changed the entire galaxy. The Guardian emerged from the gate slowly, as if testing limbs that hadn't moved in geological ages. It was massive, easily 20 meters tall, built from the same black material as the gate itself. Its body was humanoid in the way that function sometimes mirrors form across the universe, but there was nothing human about the power that radiated from it. Marcus's hand finally came free from the gate. He stumbled backward and Sarah caught him. What did you do? She whispered. I don't know, Marcus said honestly. His head was still spinning with the images the gate had shown him. Stars, worlds, civilizations, death and rebirth, a pattern he almost recognized. The Guardian's burning eyes fixed on him. When it spoke, the words appeared in Marcus's mind more than his ears. I am Sentinel Prime, last construct of the architects. I have waited 53,412 years for one who could wake me. The Guardian tilted its head, studying Marcus like a puzzle. You match the template perfectly. Template? Marcus managed. What template? The genetic pattern established by my creators. The neural structure required to interface with architect technology. The Guardian's eyes dimmed slightly, almost thoughtful. Only persistence predator species with specific evolutionary markers can activate our systems. Your species spent millions of years chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. You evolved to never give up. The architects knew such a species would eventually arise. Ambassador Threll had backed away to the edge of the plaza. This is impossible. The Veronthi tried for centuries. Our best genetic engineers, our finest scientists. None could wake the Sentinels. Because you are not what we needed, the Guardian said simply. The Veronthi are efficient, logical. You calculate costs and benefits. When the math says stop, you stop. It looked back at Marcus. Humans do not stop, even when they should. Curator Voss had regained some composure, shifting back to a steady purple color. What do you mean by interface? What systems? The Guardian raised one massive hand. Light pooled in its palm, then expanded outward into a hologram. Marcus saw the galaxy spread before them, stars glittering like diamonds. Scattered across the spiral arms were points of golden light, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. The Sentinel network, the Guardian said. Defense stations placed throughout the galaxy by the architects. They have been dormant since my creators departed, until now. The golden points began to pulse in sequence. The network responds to human neural patterns. As of this moment, 372 stations are coming online. More will follow. Sarah's face had gone pale. You're saying humans can control ancient alien weapon systems? I am saying humans are the only ones who can control them. The architects designed it this way. They knew what was coming. What's coming? Marcus asked, though part of him already knew. The visions the gate had shown him included darkness. Not the empty dark of space, but a hungry dark. A dark that consumed. They return, the Guardian said quietly. The Devourers. My creators called them entropy incarnate. They come from the spaces between galaxies, drawn to light and life and order. They consume it all and leave nothing but void. The hologram shifted, showing tendrils of absolute black creeping into the galaxy's edge. The architects fought them for 10,000 years. They could not win, so they left behind the Sentinels and waited for a species capable of operating them. Why didn't you tell anyone? Marcus demanded. Why leave the galaxy defenseless? The other species could not use the Sentinels. Telling them would only have caused panic and despair. Better to let the network sleep until the right heirs arrived. The Guardian's eyes brightened. "You're young, Marcus Webb. Your species has been traveling the stars for less than a century, but you are what we needed." Ambassador Threll's voice cut across the plaza, sharp with fear and anger. "The Council will not accept this. Humanity is too new, too reckless. We cannot allow them to control the most powerful weapons in the galaxy." "You have no choice," the Guardian said. "The network will not respond to you. Only to them." "Then we will demand they relinquish control," Threll said. "The Council has laws, protocols. Humanity will be bound by them." Marcus looked at Sarah. She was his captain, his friend, and one of the smartest people he knew. Her expression was complicated, torn between scientific wonder and political dread. "What happens if we say no?" Marcus asked the Guardian. "What if we refuse to accept this? Then the Devourers will come and no one will be able to stop them. The Sentinel network requires human operators. Without you, the galaxy dies." The Guardian leaned closer. "I know what you are thinking. You wonder if this is fair, if it is right to place such responsibility on your young species." The architects wondered the same thing, and, Marcus said, and they decided that responsibility creates wisdom faster than time alone. You will learn. You will grow. You will become what the galaxy needs. The Guardian straightened. "Or you will fail and everything ends." "The choice is yours," Sarah stepped forward. "You said you waited 50,000 years. Why? Why not go dormant completely? Why sit here aware and alone for all that time?" For the first time, the Guardian's voice carried something like emotion. Someone had to remember. Someone had to witness. "The architects gave everything to build the Sentinels. I am all that remains of them. I carry their memories, their hopes, their final days." The massive being looked down at its hands. "I am the last architect, Marcus Webb. My consciousness is all that survived when my creators fled. They poured what remained of themselves into me so that I could guide their heirs." The plaza fell silent except for the wind whistling through ancient stone. Marcus's mind was reeling. An hour ago, he'd been a xenoarchaeologist on a routine survey mission. Now he was apparently the heir to a galactic defense network, chosen by a dead civilization to fight monsters from dark space. "I need to think," he said quietly. "Think quickly," the Guardian replied. "The network's awakening will not go unnoticed. The Council will be here soon and they will not be happy. And the Devourers?" The hologram flickered, showing those black tendrils creeping closer. They felt the network activate. They know their ancient enemy has awakened. They are coming. Marcus looked up at the massive being, at the gate behind it, at the stars above them all. He thought about responsibility and choice and the weight of history. "How long do we have?" he asked. "To prepare for the Council?" "Hours. To prepare for the Devourers?" The Guardian's eyes dimmed. "Weeks, perhaps months." "Not long enough," Sarah touched Marcus's arm. "We need to get back to the ship. We need to contact Earth immediately." Marcus nodded slowly. As they turned to leave, the Guardian spoke one more time. "The architects chose persistence predators for a reason, Marcus Webb. What is coming will not be easy. There will be moments when surrender seems wise. But humans do not surrender, do they? Even when they should." It wasn't a question. Marcus looked back at the massive construct, at the first and last of the architects, and felt the weight of 50,000 years of waiting settle onto his shoulders. "No," he said quietly, "we really don't." The journey back to the ship took 30 minutes. Marcus spent every second of it feeling like his skull was too full. Information kept bubbling up from wherever the gate had downloaded it. Flashes of understanding about things he'd never studied. Stellar mechanics, quantum field manipulation, the basic architecture of the Sentinel network. "You're glowing," Sarah said as they climbed aboard their shuttle. Marcus looked down at his hands. She was right. Faint golden lines traced beneath his skin, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. That can't be good. The Guardian said you matched the template. Maybe this is part of it? Sarah fired up the engines. "We need to get you to medical." "We need to get to Earth," Marcus corrected. "The Council will be here any minute and they're going to want answers we don't have." As if summoned by his words, the comm system crackled to life. "Human vessel, this is Galactic Council Cruiser Determination. You will stand down and prepare to receive a boarding party." Sarah met Marcus's eyes. "That was fast." "They must have had ships nearby," Marcus said. "Probably watching us, waiting to see what the reckless humans would break." Ambassador Threll's voice came over a secondary channel. Dr. Webb, you have committed an act of unprecedented danger. The Council demands your immediate custody. You will explain what you have done. Marcus took a deep breath and opened the channel. Ambassador, I touched a gate, it opened. That's what happened. You activated a sentinel. Threll's voice crackled with static and fury. The most dangerous weapons in known space are now responding to human neural patterns. Do you understand what you've done? I'm starting to, Marcus said quietly. The Council cruiser moved into orbit above them, massive and intimidating. It was shaped like a crescent moon, bristling with weapons that could vaporize their little survey ship without effort. Through the viewport, Marcus could see smaller craft launching, heading for the planet's surface. They're going to the gate, Sarah said. Going to talk to the Guardian. Good luck with that, Marcus muttered. The information still flowing through his mind included one clear fact. The Guardian would only fully communicate with someone who carried the architect template. With a human, his communicator buzzed. It was his personal device, not the ship's comm. The contact ID read simply, Sentinel Prime. Marcus stared at it. How? Sarah leaned over. Is that thing calling you? Marcus answered. The Guardian's voice filled his head, clearer than ever. The Council approaches. They will demand you surrender the network access. They will threaten. They may even attempt to take you by force. What should I do? That depends. Will you accept the burden the architects left behind, or will you try to give it away? Marcus looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, according to the Guardian, the Devourers were coming. Entropy incarnate, monsters that consumed light and life. And the only thing that could stop them was a network of ancient weapons that only humans could operate. I don't want to start a war with the Galactic Council, Marcus said. Then you will have to convince them, the Guardian replied. Show them you are worthy. The architects left a test, a trial that proves the heir's capability. No species has ever survived it. That's not encouraging. It was not meant to be encouraging. It was meant to be definitive. The Guardian paused. The Council's delegation will demand proof. Offer them the trial of worthiness. If you survive, they cannot question your right to the network. And if I don't survive, then the choice will be made for you, and humanity will never know what it might have become. The connection ended. Sarah had been listening on speaker. She grabbed Marcus's shoulders. You are not taking some ancient alien death test just to prove a point. What choice do I have? They're not going to just let us leave with control of the Sentinels. You heard Threll. They're scared. They should be scared, Sarah said. We should be scared. Marcus, we don't know what we're dealing with. The Guardian does, and it chose us. Chose humans. Marcus pulled up the information flowing through his mind, focusing on what he knew about the trial. Images came, fragmented but clear. A chamber. A connection to the entire Sentinel network. A direct upload of the architect's final memories. I have to do this, Sarah. You don't have to do anything alone, Sarah said firmly. Earth needs to know. Command needs to know. Hell, every human in the galaxy needs to know what's happening. Marcus nodded. Send a tight beam to Fleet Command. Everything we know. Tell them about the Devourers, the network, the trial. Tell them, he paused. Tell them I'm sorry for starting an intergalactic incident by touching things I shouldn't. Sarah almost smiled. They'll put that on your tombstone. Let's hope not. The comm crackled again. Human vessel, you will dock with the determination immediately. This is not a request. Marcus opened the channel. We're coming. But I want to speak to the full Council delegation, not just Ambassador Threll. This is bigger than him. There was a long pause. Then a new voice, deeper and more measured. This is High Counselor Marn of the Collective Accord. Dr. Webb, you will explain yourself before the assembled representatives. Come aboard peacefully and we will discuss the situation. Resist and we will be forced to take more direct action. I understand, Marcus said. We're docking now. As Sarah piloted them toward the massive cruiser, Marcus focused inward on the information the gate had given him. The Sentinels were waking across the galaxy, responding to his genetic signature. 372 stations, the Guardian had said. Soon to be more. Every major Council species would be detecting them by now. Ancient weapon platforms powering up after 50,000 years of silence. And all of them keyed to humanity, the newest and least respected species in the galaxy. This is going to get complicated, Sarah said as they entered the cruiser's docking bay. It already is complicated, Marcus replied. The golden lines under his skin pulsed brighter. The question is whether we can make them understand before it's too late. The docking clamps engaged with a heavy thud. Through the viewport, Marcus could see a full security detail waiting for them. 20 armed guards from 6 different species, all carrying weapons that could drop an elephant. They're taking this seriously, Sarah observed. Good, Marcus said, standing. So am I. He reached for the door release, then paused. The Guardian's voice echoed in his memory. The trial of worthiness. No species has ever survived it. Sarah, if this goes wrong, it won't, she interrupted. Because you're too stubborn to die and too curious to give up. That's what being human means, right? We keep going even when we shouldn't. Marcus smiled despite everything. The Guardian said the same thing. Then the Guardian knows us pretty well. The door opened. High Counselor Marn stood at the front of the delegation, a being of crystalline beauty and ancient authority. Behind him, representatives from a dozen species watched with expressions ranging from fear to fury. Marn spoke, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. Dr. Marcus Webb of Earth, you have activated technology that has defied the galaxy's greatest minds for 50,000 years. You have given your species access to weapons that could destroy civilizations. He stepped closer. Now you will explain how humanity intends to use this power. And you will pray your answer is satisfactory. Marcus met the High Counselor's gaze without flinching. The golden lines beneath his skin pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, marking him as something new in the galaxy, something the architects had waited for. I intend, Marcus said clearly, to save everyone, whether you want me to or not. The council chamber fell silent. Then High Counselor Marn did something Marcus didn't expect. He laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. The council chamber was designed to intimidate. High vaulted ceilings, walls that seemed to stretch forever, and a circular arrangement that put the accused in the center while representatives from 43 species sat in judgment above. Marcus stood in that center now, very aware that he was probably the first human to ever address the full Galactic Council. You wish to save us, High Counselor Marn said, his crystalline form shifting through colors that Marcus's translator couldn't interpret. How noble, how arrogant, how perfectly human. The architects left the Sentinel network for a reason, Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. They knew something was coming. The Devourers. We know the legends, Ambassador Thrall interrupted. Every species has stories of the darkness that supposedly drove the architects away. Myths, bedtime stories to frighten children. They're not myths, Marcus said. The golden lines under his skin pulsed brighter, and information surged through his mind. He could feel the Sentinels now all across the galaxy, humming with power after their long sleep. The Guardian showed me. The architects fought a 10,000-year war against entropy beings from dark space. They couldn't win, so they built the Sentinels and fled, hoping that eventually a species would arise that could operate them. And naturally, a representative from the Krell Federation said, her voice dripping with sarcasm, this species happens to be the youngest, most violent, least developed civilization in the Council. How convenient. It's not about development, Marcus said. It's about evolution. The architects needed a specific neural pattern, a specific way of thinking. They needed persistence predators, species that evolved by never giving up, by chasing prey to exhaustion, by continuing even when logic said to stop. Exactly, Marn said coldly. They needed a species too stupid to recognize when they're beaten. Congratulations, Dr. Webb. The architects looked across the entire galaxy and decided humanity's stubbornness was the solution to their problem. The chamber erupted in agreement. Representatives nodded, gestured, made sounds of approval. Only a few remained silent, watching Marcus with something that might have been curiosity. Sarah stood at the edge of the chamber, not allowed to speak, but present as a witness. Marcus caught her eye. She gave him a slight nod. Keep going. You're afraid, Marcus said, raising his voice over the noise. Not of the Devourers, of us. Of what it means that humans can control the Sentinels and you can't. The chamber fell silent. You have been spacefaring for thousands of years, Marcus continued. You've built civilizations, created wonders, achieved peace among 43 different species. And now a race that's barely left their home system has been given the keys to the galaxy's most powerful weapons. That terrifies you. Of course it terrifies us, Marn said quietly. Do you know what humanity's first act was upon joining the Council? You requested access to our military technology databases. Your second act? You asked about territorial expansion rights. You are warriors, Dr. Webb, killers. And now you have weapons that could crack planets. Marcus took a breath. The Guardian had warned him this would happen. I understand, I do. If I were in your position, I'd be scared too. So let me offer you something. You are in no position to offer anything, Threll snapped. The Guardian told me about the trial of worthiness, Marcus said, speaking over the ambassador. I'll test the architect's design to prove an heir's capability. The Guardian says no species has ever survived it. Marn leaned forward. Explain. The trial involves a direct connection to the entire Sentinel network. The heir must experience the architect's final memories, see what they saw, feel what they felt. It's supposed to prove whether someone can handle the responsibility. Marcus spread his hands. I'll take the trial. Right now, if I survive, you accept that humanity was chosen for a reason. If I don't, he shrugged. Then the problem solves itself. The chamber exploded into debate. Representatives shouted at each other in a dozen languages. Marcus stood in the center of it all, watching as the most powerful beings in the galaxy argued about whether to let him potentially die to prove a point. Finally, Marn raised a hand. Silence fell. This trial, the High Counselor said. What does it entail? Marcus focused on the information flowing through his mind. I don't know exactly. The Guardian said it involves experiencing the Architect's last days, their war, their defeat, their choice to leave everything behind. The golden lines pulsed under his skin. It's supposed to show whether I can handle the weight of what they left behind. And if you cannot, if the trial breaks your mind, then I die and the Sentinel network goes dormant again. Problem solved. Sarah made a noise of protest from the edge of the chamber, but Marcus didn't look at her. He couldn't. If he saw the fear in her eyes, he might lose his nerve. Marn conferred with the other senior council members. Their conversation was private, shielded by technology Marcus couldn't begin to understand. Finally, the High Counselor turned back to him. The Council accepts your offer, Dr. Webb. You will undergo the trial of worthiness under our observation. If you survive with your mind intact, we will accept your species' role as heirs to the architects. If you do not... Marn's colors shifted to something that looked like regret. Then humanity will be permanently barred from accessing architect technology, and we will find another solution. There is no other solution, Marcus said. The Sentinels only respond to humans. Then we will destroy the Sentinels, Marn said flatly. Better no defense than a defense we cannot trust. Marcus felt cold. You'd rather leave the galaxy helpless than let us help? We would rather maintain control of our own fate than place it in the hands of children. Marn stood. When will you take this trial? Marcus looked at Sarah. She was shaking her head, mouthing the word no over and over. He looked at the council representatives, at their fear and anger and desperation. He thought about the Devourers creeping closer. He thought about the Guardian waiting alone for 50,000 years. Now, Marcus said. I'll take it now. Sarah pushed past the guards and grabbed his arm. Marcus, you don't have to do this. We can find another way. There is no other way, he said gently. They need proof. The Guardian knew they would. The Guardian is a 50,000-year-old machine. It doesn't care if you die. I think it does, Marcus said. I think it's been caring for a very long time. That's why it waited. He touched her hand. I'll be okay. Humans are stubborn, remember? Too stupid to quit. Sarah's eyes were wet. That's not funny. Little bit funny, Marcus said. The Guardian's voice spoke in his mind. I am ready when you are, Marcus Webb. The trial chamber has been prepared. I will guide you through it. How long will it take? Marcus asked aloud. For you? Minutes for those watching. However long it takes your mind to process 50,000 years of memory. The Guardian's tone was gentle. I will not lie to you. The trial is designed to break those who are unworthy. You will experience the fall of the greatest civilization the galaxy has ever known. You will feel their despair, their fear, their final moments before they fled into the dark. If your mind cannot bear it, you will not return. Marcus looked around the chamber one more time. At the aliens who feared him, at Sarah who loved him, at the stars beyond the viewports that held secrets and dangers he couldn't imagine. Let's do this, he said. The Guardian's presence grew stronger in his mind. Then come, heir of Earth. Let me show you why the architects chose you. Let me show you the weight you have accepted. The golden lines under Marcus's skin blazed like fire. and the trial began. Marcus had thought he understood the concept of ancient. The council species talked about their histories spanning thousands of years. The architects had left behind structures 50,000 years old. These were numbers he could comprehend, at least intellectually. Then the trial hit him, and he learned what ancient really meant. He wasn't Marcus anymore. He was Architect Prime, standing in a command center that orbited a star that no longer existed. Around him, others like him worked at stations that bent reality itself, manipulating forces that made nuclear fusion look like a candle flame. The Devourers have breached the outer rim, someone reported. The language was mathematical, pure information, but Marcus understood it perfectly. 7 systems have gone dark, 8-12. Architect Prime accessed the network. The Sentinels fired, unleashing energy that could unmake stars. The Devourers died by the thousands. By the millions, it didn't matter. For everyone destroyed, 10 more emerged from dark space. They were entropy given hunger, void given purpose. They consumed light and heat and order, leaving behind only the cold mathematics of heat death. Systems that had burned for billions of years went dark in hours. "We cannot win this war," another architect said. Marcus felt their despair like it was his own. "They are infinite." "We are not!" The memory shifted, jumped forward. How long? Years? Decades? Marcus couldn't tell. He was falling through time like falling through water. He was on a planet now, a beautiful world with 3 moons and cities that sang with harmonics beyond human hearing. Children played in gardens where plants grew in fractal patterns. This was civilization perfected, peace achieved, art and science merged into something transcendent. The sky went dark. Not the darkness of night. The darkness of nothing. The Devourers had arrived. Marcus watched through Architect Prime's eyes as the defense grid activated. Watched as the Sentinels burned bright enough to scar the sky. Watched as millions of Devourers died, and watched as millions more kept coming. The cities fell. The gardens turned to dust. The children, Marcus tried to scream, but he had no mouth. He was memory now, just memory, forced to witness but unable to change anything. The scene shifted again, again, again. 100 worlds falling, 1,000. The architects fought with everything they had. They built weapons that could tear holes in reality. They created shields that bent time itself. They sacrificed everything. It wasn't enough. Marcus found himself in a final council chamber much like the one he'd left behind. But this one was filled with beings of light and mathematics, and they were making the hardest choice any civilization had ever faced. "We cannot stop them," Architect Prime said. Marcus felt the weight of those words like a mountain on his chest. "But we can delay them. We can build the Sentinel network and set it to sleep. We can scatter the keys across the galaxy in the genetic code of species not yet evolved. And we can hope. Hope for what?" another asked. "We have failed. We who reshaped stars and bent space to our will. What species could possibly succeed where we have not?" "One that doesn't know when to quit," Architect Prime said. "One that evolved not through logic and efficiency, but through bloody-minded refusal to die. One that, when faced with impossible odds, chooses to fight anyway." The architect's form flickered. "We are too wise, too careful. We calculate probabilities and see the futility. We need a species too stubborn to care about the math." "Madness," someone said. "Necessity," Architect Prime replied. "The Devourers will return. In 50,000 years. In 100,000. But they will return. And when they do, the galaxy will need warriors, not philosophers, not artists. Warriors who fight because fighting is what they do." The memory shifted one last time. Marcus stood in a chamber he recognized, the gate chamber on Kepler 442c. But it was new now, just built, the stone still sharp and unweathered. Architect Prime was there, standing before the gate that would become Sentinel Prime. "I volunteer," Architect Prime said. "Someone must remain. Someone must remember. I will transfer my consciousness to the Sentinel and wait for the heirs." 50,000 years, another architect said. "Perhaps more. Alone, aware, waiting. Someone must," Architect Prime said simply. "Someone must bear witness. Someone must remember what we were, what we fought, what we sacrificed." The architect looked up at the stars, and someone must guide them when they arrive. Because they will need guidance. They will need to understand the weight they're accepting. The transfer began. Marcus felt it. The agony of consciousness being poured into machine form, felt the moment when flesh became metal, when biology became code, when mortality became something else entirely, felt the loneliness of the first hour alone, the first year, the first 1,000 years. Marcus experienced all of it. Every minute of 53,000 years of waiting, watching stars be born and die, watching species arise and fall, watching the council form, grow, achieve peace, watching as they tried and failed to open the gate, waiting, always waiting, for someone too stubborn to follow the warnings, for someone reckless enough to touch what they shouldn't, for someone human. The trial released him. Marcus collapsed in the council chamber. His body was soaking with sweat. His hands were shaking. Sarah was there immediately, catching him before he hit the ground. How long? He gasped. 47 seconds, she said. Her face was pale. Marcus, you were screaming. He looked up at the council representatives. They were all staring at him. Marn had gone completely transparent, a shock response Marcus had never seen in his species. I saw, Marcus said. His voice was raw. I saw it all. The war, the fall. 50,000 years of waiting. He pushed himself upright, refusing Sarah's help. The architects didn't fail because they weren't smart enough or strong enough. They failed because they were too wise. They saw the math and knew they couldn't win. So they stopped trying. And you believe humanity would not? Marn asked quietly. I know we wouldn't, Marcus said. We don't stop. Even when we should. Even when the math says we can't win. We keep fighting until there's nothing left to fight with, and then we fight with our bare hands. He touched his chest, where the golden lines still pulsed beneath his skin. That's why the architects chose us. Not because we're special, because we're too stupid to quit. The chamber was silent. Then slowly, Marn began to shift colors, blue to green to gold. Marcus's translator finally caught up. Respect, understanding, acceptance. The trial is passed, the High Counselor said. Humanity is acknowledged as heir to the architects. The Council will not interfere with your access to the Sentinel network. Thank you, Marcus said. Do not thank me, Marn replied. You have proven your species' capability, but capability is not the same as wisdom. The burden you have accepted. The High Counselor's colors shifted to something sad. I hope you understand what you have done. I do, Marcus said. And he did. He carried 50,000 years of memory now. 50,000 years of loneliness and hope and desperate faith that someone, someday, would be stubborn enough to touch a sealed gate. His communicator buzzed. The Guardian's voice was gentle in his mind. Well done, heir of Earth. You have seen what we saw, felt what we felt. Do you understand now why we waited for you? I understand, Marcus whispered. Good, the Guardian said. Because the Devourers have detected the network's awakening. They are coming. And this time there is no fleeing into dark space. This time we fight. This time we do not quit. Marcus looked at Sarah, at the council, at the stars beyond the viewports. No, he said. We don't. The Devourers arrived 3 weeks later. Marcus was at Sentinel Station Theta 7 when the alerts began. The station was a massive ring of black metal floating in deep space, ancient and impossibly powerful. Around him, 20 other humans worked at control stations, learning systems that had been sleeping for 50 millennia. They were pilots, engineers, soldiers. Earth had sent its best. And right now, their best was terrified. Contact at the rim, Lieutenant Torres called out. Multiple signatures. God, there's so many of them. Marcus pulled up the tactical display. The edge of the galaxy lit up with red markers. Hundreds of them. Thousands. All moving inward with purpose and terrible speed. Battle stations, Marcus said. His voice was calm. He was surprised by how calm it was. All Sentinel stations prepare for engagement. Across the galaxy, 372 ancient weapons platforms hummed to life. Each one was operated by humans, by people who'd volunteered for this insane duty. Each one was powerful enough to crack a moon. It wouldn't be enough. Marcus knew it. He'd seen the architect's memories. He knew how this ended, but he also knew humans didn't care about endings. They cared about the fight. The Guardian's voice filled the station. The massive construct had uploaded itself to the Sentinel network after the trial. Its consciousness now distributed across every platform. The Devourers will strike at Council space first. They consume order, and the Council represents the galaxy's greatest concentration of civilization. How long until they reach inhabited systems? Marcus asked. 4 days, perhaps 5. Sarah's voice came through from Station Delta 3. Marcus, the Council is evacuating border worlds. Marn is asking for Sentinel support. Marcus pulled up the strategic map. The Devourers were spreading like a stain, consuming everything in their path. Stars went dark. Stations went silent. The void advanced. Tell him we're on our way, Marcus said. All stations prepare for network jump. Network jumping was one of the Architect's more terrifying technologies. It bent space around the Sentinels, allowing them to cross vast distances instantly. It also felt like having your atoms pulled apart and reassembled, or so Torres claimed after the first test. Marcus initiated the sequence. Reality folded, twisted, and the Sentinels appeared at the rim of Council space. The Devourers were already there. Marcus had seen them in the Architect's memories. But memory didn't prepare him for the reality. They weren't creatures, not really. They were absence, holes in space where matter and energy simply ceased to exist. They moved through the void like sharks through water, graceful and hungry and impossible. All stations, fire at will, Marcus said. The Sentinels opened up. Energy beams that could boil oceans lanced through the void. Weapons that bent reality itself activated. The Architects had built these stations to fight gods, and now they fought entropy. Devourers died, thousands of them, ripped apart by forces they couldn't consume fast enough. The void lit up with fire and fury, and more Devourers kept coming. They're not stopping, Torres shouted. We're killing them, but they're not stopping. Good, Marcus said. Neither are we. The battle raged for 6 hours. The Sentinels fired continuously, their power cores drawing energy from subspace itself. Human operators worked until their hands bled and their eyes burned. They didn't stop, but the Devourers broke through. A colony world went dark. Then another. Then 3 at once. We can't be everywhere, Sarah said over the network. Her station had jumped 4 times already, trying to plug gaps in the defense. Marcus, there's too many of them. Marcus watched the tactical display. She was right. The math was simple and brutal. The Devourers were infinite. The Sentinels were not. They were going to lose. The Guardian's voice was quiet in his mind. I have an option. There is a weapon the Architects built but never used. A final solution. What kind of weapon? One that seals dark space permanently. It creates a barrier between our reality and the void beyond. The Devourers would be trapped outside forever, unable to return. Marcus felt hope flare. That's perfect. Why didn't the Architects use it? Because the weapon requires a living anchor. Someone must cross into dark space and become the seal itself. They would be trapped there forever, conscious but alone, holding the door closed for eternity. The hope died. Marcus looked at the tactical display, at the red markers spreading like infection, at the colony worlds going dark, at the people dying. How do we activate it? He asked. Marcus, no, the Guardian said. You must survive. Your species must survive to operate the Sentinels. My species will survive, Marcus said. There are 20 other humans operating stations right now. They can train more. But if we don't stop the Devourers, it won't matter. He pulled up the weapon protocols. They flooded into his mind, complex but clear. Tell me how to activate it. I cannot allow you to sacrifice yourself, the Guardian said. You are the primary heir. The one who passed the trial. You waited 50,000 years alone, Marcus said quietly. I'm not letting another living being do that. Especially not when I can do it instead. Silence. Then the Guardian said, You are so very human. Thank you. It was not entirely a compliment. Marcus smiled. I know. The protocols completed downloading. Marcus saw how it would work. He would use Station Theta 7 as the anchor point. He would cross into dark space. He would become the living seal, his consciousness stretched across the barrier between realities, holding it closed forever. He opened a channel to all Sentinel stations. This is Marcus Webb. I'm activating the final protocol. The barrier weapon. It'll seal dark space permanently, but I'll need to stay behind to anchor it. No, Sarah said immediately. Marcus, no. We'll find another way. There is no other way, Marcus said. The Guardian told me. Someone has to hold the door. It might as well be me. He looked out at the void, at the Devourers still coming. Besides, I touched the gate as a joke. Seems only fair I finish what I started. Torres spoke up. Sir, we can draw lots. One of us can— No, Marcus said firmly. I'm the primary heir. I passed the trial. This is my responsibility. The Guardian's voice was soft. You do not have to do this, Marcus Webb. I can be the anchor. I am already machine. The loneliness would be familiar. Marcus felt tears on his face. You've waited long enough. You've sacrificed enough. Let me do this. Let humanity do this. We're the species too stubborn to quit, remember? I remember, the Guardian said. I will never forget. Marcus initiated the sequence. Station Theta 7 began to change, its power core building to levels that made the hull scream. The weapon was charging. Sarah, Marcus said, take care of them. Take care of Earth. Tell them the architects were right about us, Marcus, and tell them I'm okay. Because I am. This is what we do. We protect people, even when it costs everything. The weapon reached full charge. Marcus could feel the barrier forming, a wall between realities. He could feel dark space beyond it, cold and hungry and infinite. He could feel the devourers on the other side pushing against the barrier. Now, the Guardian said, cross now and I will seal it behind you. Marcus took a breath, thought about Earth, about Sarah, about the council representatives who'd been so afraid of humanity, about the architects who'd waited 50,000 years for someone stubborn enough to save the galaxy. See, you on the other side, he said, and stepped through. The barrier closed behind him with a sound, like the universe sighing in relief. Dark space was exactly what he'd expected. Cold, empty, lonely. But Marcus Webb was human, and humans didn't quit. He spread his consciousness across the barrier, becoming the seal, the anchor, the lock that would hold forever. He felt the devourers rage against it, felt them push and claw and hunger. He held firm. I'll stay as long as it takes, he said to the void, to the devourers, to the barrier itself. Forever if I have to, because that's what humans do. The Guardian's voice reached him one last time, faint across reality. Thank you, Marcus Webb. Last of the architects, first of the Guardians. Marcus smiled in the dark. Don't thank me yet, he said. I'm just getting started. And in the galaxy beyond, the devourers' advance stopped. The void receded. The stars burned bright once more. Humanity had saved the galaxy by being too stubborn to do anything else.